Oh, the fucking racism and the bigotry and the homophobia. I live in metropolitan Melbourne and I forget what the rest of Australia is like.
27
27
questions.
questions,
27 weeks.
27
pedestrians.
pedestrians.
I could sit here all day and answer this question, but the biggest thing that I don't get about Australia is the judicial system. It's completely upside down and makes no sense to me. Like a child molester or a murderer will get 4 years and walk in too, but then a weed dealer will get 15 years and see every day of that. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. And it's probably the thing that pisses me off the most about our country.
There's a large portion of us who like to pretend that nothing is wrong. We like to pretend that we're not a racist country. We like to pretend that we don't take advantage of the environment, and we do. And I'm someone who loves Australia. I love the fact that we're the country that has the oldest surviving culture in the world. But I love Australia so much, I'm willing to call it out on its bullshit. So Australia, you're racist and you take advantage of the environment. Figure it out.
What pisses me off about Australia? I mean, so many things, but like so many things that aren't exclusive to Australia as well. But I mean, at the moment, fucking ScoMo. Just like, I mean, yesterday, or whenever it was, Are You OK Day, which is garbage to start with, and I don't like it. But the fact that he's like posting, being like, oh, have you checked on people to see if they're okay? No, we're fucking not, because you're cutting people's money and we're in the middle of a pandemic and you're a useless prick.
The thing that pisses me off most about Australia is the fact that we're racist and we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to fix it.
The casual racism and the total denial that racism is a problem by people who have never experienced racism, like who they somehow have the monopoly of the conversation, but they haven't experienced it. So I don't know how they feel like they have such authority to speak on it. And that is like just really, I think, sets us back and just like puts a halt on a whole lot of progress that we could have been making for hundreds of years.
The fact we say we're like super chill and laid back, but if you dug a bit under the surface, we're not. We're a bit uptight.
This is going to sound so silly, but I don't have anything. Like, I honestly really love Australia. I see, like, my friends who live in different countries in their life, and, like, things are so intense everywhere. And here, things are just more chilled. And, like, we have beaches everywhere. No matter where you want to go, you have accessible water. And, like, it's a great society. We don't have to worry about our country blocking our YouTube. Like, we have it really well. We have it really good in lots of ways. So I can't complain. Like, I'm really lucky.
I feel like the government just half-asses all their legislation all the time. Like with weed legalization, with stuff like renewable energy, they're just like, all these studies have come through where like gas and oil is not a good investment, and the government's like, let's do more gas and oil. We've got so much sunshine, we've got so much area that we can put in renewables. They're not doing as much as they can.
I would have to say the worst thing about Australia is definitely the accents, and also the culture. Like, what do we do on the weekend? We literally just drink. Like, there's nothing to do except drink here. So, yeah, the way that we talk and the way that we have fun.
What pisses me off the most about Australia, how backwards we are. I feel like whenever you go overseas somewhere like, I don't know, like the US, Europe, they're always just so like up to date with stuff. They have more recent music, movies, taste, those sorts of things. And Australia seems to catch on like 2 or 3 years later, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Like racism. And I'm hesitant because I know there will be someone somewhere who sees me saying that I still think Australia at its heart is like a deeply racist and divided country. And they'll be like, well, if you don't like it, bloody well go back to where you came from. Or, you know, if you don't like it, leave, that kind of thing. But I think it's this insidious thing that if you're not a person of colour, or unless it's overt, like filmed instances of someone screaming racist things on a train, or you know, like violence that's documented, I think a lot of it goes unnoticed.
Our current leaders, and I use that term loosely, our elected officials, our representatives, at the moment, well, for a long time, they push division over solution. So yeah, it's a lot of playing politics. So what pisses me off the most about Australia is our politicians.
I'm someone who grew up with this idea of white proxies as being the only way I can fit in, and like it took a lot of my adulthood to unlearn a lot of that stuff, because it was like, no, Giancarlo, you don't actually need to, to be like, white folk in order to to fit in. You can celebrate your difference. And it took me a long time to unlearn that. It's kind of shitty that I had to, because obviously it points to this internalized racism that we all have, and we see that racism a lot in refugee policy, and how we treat Aboriginal and First Nations peoples. There's a lot of racism.
It is just this divide between rural and city really gives me the shits. I think that a lot of the time out here, because we are such a small part of the population, like I think it's something like 82% of the population lives east of the Great Divide, so Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and the coastal towns in between. And a lot of the decisions that are made, particularly politically and stuff like that, are made based on the big populations down the coast, and therefore what we should be getting out here, or things that should be changing to make sure that we can feed and clothe ourselves and be sustainable long term, are getting overlooked.
First of all, the one that boils my blood, and I don't care if it's controversial, that Aussie oi oi, everything that epitomizes that fucks me off, because to me, growing up in regional Australia, that Aussie true blue Australian straight white man represents like fucking xenophobia, misogyny, racism, homophobia. Like, they've got all that embodied in their little fragile / hyper masculine identities, or whatever they may be.
I guess what pisses me off about Australia, and I'll include myself in this, as a community, sometimes we take a long time to listen to disenfranchised voices and community groups and minorities within our community.
Probably the government. And I know that's a very political answer, but I see things in the news every day that annoy me and things that I shake my head at, and it's just so annoying. Other than that, Scott Morrison himself, he just looks so smug. He just pisses me off. And also just, the racism and sexism of every day.
It's really hard to say between a grievous violation of international human rights law with offshore detention camps, with our current ongoing abuse of Indigenous people, with no progressive action on climate change, with tax exemptions for the top earners in Australia. It is really hard to say which pisses me off about Australia, but I think I have to say all of the above.
Sometimes the animals piss me off. Why do we have so many spiders? Why do we have so many snakes? Why can't we just have bears or something like a normal country?
The fact that we don't have the climate of Europe per se, because I fucking hate spiders. I just really do not like them. Not even one thing. I don't understand the whole need of like 8 arms, 8 eyes, crawling on ceilings, all that sort of bullshit. Had we been closer to Europe, we would not have this issue. So I think it's the whole climate and spiders, just massive, massive no to me.
Oh, the fucking racism and the bigotry and the homophobia. I live in metropolitan Melbourne and I forget what the rest of Australia is like until we get a federal election. And then I'm like, oh, that's right, you're all backwards. I just wish that people were a little bit more open-minded and a little bit more considerate of people. Yeah.
There is quite a bit that pisses me off about Australia. At the same time, there's quite a bit that I love about Australia. I know that, like, on the good side of things, I know that I would not have the healthcare, the education, and the chances that I have currently in Australia as compared to the country of my birth, Brazil, especially right now where Brazil has completely been decimated by coronavirus. At the same time, it can often feel like this country deliberately is the most casually racist country in the world at times.
2 things come to mind. One is just the blatant racism that exists and just kind of seems to be part and parcel with Australian culture, like especially rural Australia. Actually, 3 things come to mind. 2 is the way we treat our Indigenous Australians, how it's just like such a sort of hidden it's like our nation's dark secret, and there isn't really. I think there should be more education, more conversation.
We can't go anywhere at the moment. We're stuck on this, like we're stuck. And we don't have good snow.
I wouldn't live anywhere else, to be honest with you. I love Australia as a country and everything it offers. I would say what pisses me off is maybe Australian media. What I mean by that is I still think Australian media is backwards. Television, music, news, I think it's very backwards. It's very influenced by America and the UK. I still think while we're multicultural as a country, we have a lot of foreigners, our media is still very Anglo, white men, occasionally women. It's just old school. The sporting media as well. Music, rarely you hear us start to embrace a different culture. I personally love European, South American, African, Asian music. But here it's like, if it's big in America, it's got to be big here. I think we're still bottled. So that's one thing I don't like about Australia is I still think we're bottled in our bigger brothers of the US and the UK. And we could and should be branching out a little bit more.
I mean, Australia is a lucky country. I mean, we're obviously built in colonisation, but we have such a beautiful, stunning, unique ecosystem. And I think what really would be amazing is if we could all work on inclusivity, recognising the First Nations people, and just focusing on our history and what makes us unique, rather than, I guess, constantly trying to, focus on what divides us.
Let's start off with by saying the fact that our entire country is built off land that was stolen and an attempted genocide that was, I think you could say, semi-successful when you look at Indigenous Australians now, what we've done to their culture and their people. I hate that we are still fighting for rights for anybody that isn't a upper middle class cis white male. I hate that in our national anthem we say that we've got all this land to share, yet we still force innocent refugees off onto unsanitary and just inhumane conditions on these islands around the country. I hate that our Prime Minister is probably one of the most inept idiots that we've ever had in office, especially right now when we need somebody with half a brain cell. I hate that... There's so much I hate about Australia, but I think, like, if I was going to put, like, one thing, like a cherry on top of what I hate the most about Australia and just pisses me off is the fact that we still think we're better than other countries. Like, we compare ourselves to America and we go, oh, at least we're not America, brain rust, crazy. That's literally us. We're just on the other side of the world. We have all of the same problems that America has, and we are no better than any other country in the world. I can say that safely, and we really need to take a step back and look at ourselves as a country and acknowledge these flaws and work towards fixing them, because just acknowledging them isn't going to do anything. We need to make changes now because, yeah, we suck. This country sucks. I'm grateful to live here and have the opportunities I do, but until everybody else in the country has those same opportunities and rights that I do, not good enough. We need to work harder.